It's still happy hour with John Gaskins. This round's on me.
It is another college football preview show here on Happy Hour, and we are 1 week away from our Sioux Falls D2s kicking it off. Matt Zimmer and I have chatted about both the University of Sioux Falls and Augustana. We've dug deep, or as deep as we're capable of, into the rosters, the schedules, the prospects. And the prospects are very high for both teams. And in his fourth year at the University of Sioux Falls, Jim Glogowski, Coach Glow, joining us here 1 week out from them opening the season. Unlike Augie, the Coup will be at home, and they're facing Black Hills State, who they went out and beat in Spearfish spirited opening season game almost a year ago. So it's great to have you, Glow, on the cusp of year 4. And so I'll ask you the same question I've asked guys like Dan Jackson, Matt Vitztham. Do you wish it was game day right now, or are you glad you have a week to get ready?
John, that's a great question. I'm just one of those guys. I like practice. I like spring ball. I like watching film. The games sour everything, right? It doesn't go well. It just makes you feel like, crap for a week, And so I like the teaching and all that, and I like watching the film and improving, but I probably would tell you I could use another fall camp because it's the one time of the year where I can wear flip-flops to the office and wear sweats and shorts and never have to worry about getting dressed or seeing anybody. And I walk out of the house at 6 and I walk back in at 9, 10 o'clock at night, and it's just football, and my wife lets me be, and my kind of kids know that's time of year. So I really enjoy this time of year, but it's time. You could tell at practice this last few days, the guys are getting antsy and tired of calling out the plays and knowing the form. They see the same stuff for 3 weeks, so they're ready. So it's time.
Okay. And again, we love to give fans and viewers as much inside the ropes as you can take us. A day like today, it's Thursday, August 19th. I'm looking outside right now across the street at the park, and it's beautiful. Blue skies. It's sunny. 2 or 3 hours ago, it was raining. Not cats and dogs, but it was a good steady rain for a while. And what kind of adjustments does that mean you need to make for a team that was going to practice this morning? And then obviously you don't love it, but also you have to you're going to have to deal with the elements anyway. So it's another preseason lesson, right?
Yeah, I mean it happens. I know 2 years ago, I think it was, we went to St. Thomas for a 6 o'clock kickoff and rain and thunder, and we didn't kick off to almost 9 o'clock that night, and that created some issues. And it's like for us, there's 120 guys, and you got catering and meals, and your day is set up because you have an afternoon lifting session and film session, and you have to give them 3 hours off and all this stuff. And the rain, it's not the rain so much or the snow, it's the thunder, right? I mean, and lightning. The lightning's the issue, and if there's lightning within 10 miles, we have to take a break, and every time it strikes, you have to wait another 30 minutes. And so that part of it is tedious. And so we got pushed back from practice almost an hour and a half, and then you've got other soccer wants to use the stadium in practice, and and then you got the high school there too at night. And so there's a lot of irons in the fire that you're juggling, but we got it in, and we're at the point right now where, like you said, a week out, where we're done with the heavy lifting. We're not tackling anybody anymore and all that stuff, and it's you're starting to talk about Black Hills now more than ever, whereas maybe the last 2.5 weeks it was more or less we're worried about us. But yeah, I mean, it's never easy, and this actually, it was weird. This fall camp, I think we had 2 or 3 days where lightning was an issue. We had to back up practice or walk off the field in the middle of practice, and unfortunately, we don't have a dome to go into, or an indoor facility like the Jacks and the Coyotes. So we just go back inside and wait till this thunder goes away, and then we come back out and start again.
Hey, if that had happened in a game, then you've been acclimated already. No one wants to do that, but some handle it better than others. So let's put it this way: if today was game day, I'll ease into it. What do you really like? What do you know across the board? Some specific things this team is ready for, and you can't wait to see unfold.
Yeah,
they had to be ready today.
Absolutely. Offensively, I really like our skill guys. I feel really good at wide receiver with the returning guys we have, and Hank Brown and Adonis Hutchinson. I really like our tight end room. And Dalton Woods, a returning fifth-year senior, and Noah Robertson's a fifth-year senior. And then at the quarterback position, I feel really good. Obviously, Tate Schaefer played a lot last year. He gets a lot of pub, but Bennett Bricks had a really good camp. And then Camden Dean, last year's quarterback, his younger brother is a redshirt freshman, Gavin Dean, and he's had a really nice camp too. So Bubba Tan's back at running back. I think he was nearly 1,000 yards last year, and he's back, and I feel good about him. So I feel really good about our tight end skill position on offense. I feel really good on defense about our linebacking crew. I think we have 8 redshirt juniors or older at linebacker, the 3 spots. So that's really a veteran group for us. And then at safety, we've got Garrett Hoffman back. He's a 5th-year senior, kid out of Sioux Falls, Washington. And Cam Enright joined us from Southwest Minnesota State. And then Bo Giblin, who's going to be a junior. He had transferred here from South Dakota State after his freshman year, but he's a Sioux Falls Jefferson product. And so I feel really good about those positions. O-line, D-line, and corner, those are probably the 3 spots that we have the most graduation/replacements to kind of deal with. And been really pleased. I think our corner spot is going to be really talented, just inexperienced youth. But it's a really good group as far as top to bottom, athleticism and all that stuff. And the O-line, got a lot of guys who've been in the program. They just haven't had a chance to play a lot. So really good chance that we'll end up starting 3 Sioux Falls kids in the offensive line at center and both tackles. And the one guard spot, we've got a kid who's a 5th-year senior, Ryan Ziegelbauer's played a lot of football. And then the other spot right now would be, with Bachelor, he's a kid out of Arizona who's a redshirt sophomore. Like a lot of our kids, redshirt sophomores and juniors just haven't started before, but they played. So, yeah, I feel good about that, and been really happy with the development of our D-line. Dawson Raby's a kid who's going to be a 4th-year starter for us at D-tackle, kind of anchors the inside. And then there's some other guys, 2 Sioux Falls kids, actually, a kid from Harrisburg, Max Elrod, and then Deshaun Rolick, a kid from Jefferson, who played a lot of football for us that, those guys just haven't started necessarily. But so, I just feel comfortable with our guys. You can tell in year 4, things are just smoother. And, how do we handle things? To your point about the weather, it's not a big deal. I take your pads off, go get your phones out of your locker and give them a cell phone and take off their pads. Those guys be good for, it's like giving a kid an iPad in the backseat of the car. They're good for a couple hours.
Yeah. It's like when we were growing up, just here's an Atari set. Here's a Nintendo. Yeah.
Those guys, they handle it well, and we know what we have to accomplish. And, yeah, to that extent, it probably is time to play a game and find out where we're at.
Well, you mentioned some names that I loved watching and calling on Friday nights, like Deshaun Rolick on your defense. Who are the 3 Sioux Falls kids on the line?
Yeah, so, first of all, at center is Sawyer Hunemer, kid out of Jefferson. He'll be a redshirt junior, so he's been in the program, and he played a decent amount last year. Yep. And then at right tackle, Mason Payne, who was a 6'5", 240-pound 3-sport guy at Jefferson, basketball, baseball, and football, and now he's up to 290. As a redshirt freshman, he was a backup last year as a true freshman, so we feel pretty good about him. And then at left tackle right now, Nick Pruitt is a kid that actually went to Sioux Falls and played for Kim Nelson. And I don't know if you remember, but Kim Nelson spent a little bit of time with us when he got done coaching high school. He volunteered here for a little bit. Then he got back into high school. But he called me this summer, and he's like, hey, Nick is a kid that took a year off. He'd gone to Iowa Western and had some FCS opportunities, but ended up staying here in Sioux Falls. And as of right now, he's been maybe the most pleasant surprise in camp. He showed up here all summer working out with our guys, and he's a 6'5", 300-pound kid that really helped solidify us because if you remember, Caden Mason was our left tackle that ended up transferring in the portal to Iowa State. Sounds like he might start at left guard for Iowa State, which is kind of crazy. But so we had to replace that body, and there's some other guys, Caden Mason's a kid from Harrisburg as well. They'll be fighting for that tackle spot. But so it's just been a lot of fun to see those kids kind of develop. And now you're playing kids, aside from Nick, that have been in your program that you recruited. And it's time. That's how college football works. Guys leave and guys step up.
Sure. And then, of course, there's the Sioux Falls kid, presumably playing quarterback for you that just burst onto the scene, started as a 3rd stringer. You mentioned Breck got hurt right away, right after your starter Cam Dean was hurt. A few games 6 or 7 games into the season, and Tate lit it up. Then defenses had some film on him, and it wasn't quite as seamless as the Southwest Minnesota State game. But I'll start with this. Is he locked in? Is he getting the number 1 reps? Is he going to be?
He'll start for us. He'll start for us on Thursday night. He'll be out there first, and there's no secrets. We do have some things in the works with Bennett getting on the field. He's just a really dynamic athlete, and to the kid's credit, he was taking the snaps after Cam went down, and the very first play, as you mentioned, he dislocates his ankle. first
Wow.
play, and he gets landed on kind of weird, and his foot's this way and the leg's that way, and it was a tough deal. And it's not like he lost the job due to performance. It's just Tate played really well, and so I would say this camp. I think our kids understand that probably that Tate's the guy that's going to go first, and we think Bennett's got a role to play. And what that looks like, I don't know if I'd call it a two-headed monster at quarterback, but there's certainly a benefit to getting both guys reps.
Of course, I've got to ask you the standard. What has Tate added to his game since last season? Question.
Yeah, I just think that his confidence with the other guys in this team, you can just tell that he's more, he's more, he's coaching more. He's understanding other guys and how they fit into the offense, and you can see like in the spring practices we had his confidence level because, when you're fighting, and truly he was probably 2A, 2B, whatever you want to call it. I don't know if I'd call him a third string guy last year, but Bennett went first when Cam went down. But it's kind of hard to know your spot a little bit. Everyone says, "Oh, if you're a leader, be a leader." Well, it helps when you're the guy playing to be a better leader. We can talk about all we want, but you get credibility and those kind of things, And I just think that he's gotten more comfortable in that role because he's not a very boisterous guy, and he's a pretty humble kid, and he's a coach's kid. And I heard Freddie talking the other day over at Lincoln talking about his brother. They're very similar, and I'm sure the older brother was very similar. They got a great family, and those kids are really humble and hardworking. And I'm sure the same things that Brody's doing at Lincoln High, Tate's doing for us here. They're just really good kids that work hard and know how to treat teammates.
Yeah, we've become so accustomed to a Schaefer just playing out of his mind for Lincoln High School over and over again. It seems I can't remember the last time it wasn't a Schaefer, but helmet on, they're a slightly different player because they'll run Brody to death. And helmet off, they look like it's the same guy, right? They look like
Yeah.
twins. You mentioned Bubba Tan and Hank Brown, your top rusher and receiver are back. I mean, how comforting is that? And what can you take Cougar fans inside the practice ropes and the kinds of things you see out of them as they get ready?
Yeah. Well, and again, Hank's another guy that got injured in the last game of the year and missed the last game of the year after the first ball he caught against Concordia St. Paul. So it was kind of a slow getting back to it this spring, but he did get back into action at the end of the spring. And then this summer, he's had a phenomenal summer. And I think the thing that you notice about those kids is that physically they're developed more than they ever have been, right? They're bigger, stronger. Adonis is another kid that played as a true freshman, and you can see them taking the ball away from people and physically attacking the football because they're not thinking about what route to run or how far to get my split, those kind of things. They're focused on, I'm going to make a play. I'm more confident. Like Hank, he's got so much confidence. I think he caught 90 balls last year, and he'll tell you that he should have more touchdowns. I think he got to be the only guy in the country with 90 catches and 2 touchdowns or something like that. It was kind of an anomaly, but he's just such a smooth athlete. And then the one thing I'll say about him is even this summer, I'd be in the office and I'd hear the jugs machine out in the bubble out here, and they're out there every day at 3:30 catching footballs. And the work ethic and just how to go about your business, that's probably been the biggest impact those guys have made as veteran guys. Bubba and like Christian Janis and Adonis and Hank, those guys. And then the freshmen start showing up with them, right? So they lift in the morning or whatever, and then I hear the jugs machine out there. They're catching 100 balls every day, and so that's probably the biggest thing. But I think the connection and the camaraderie and those kind of things is all that stuff that's been much better this year than it has been in the past.
All right. 30,000-foot view. We chatted about this in the spring. I think it was April with you. Fourth season as the head coach. Obviously, everybody knows most of the last every year but one of the last 30. Winning season at USF. Incredibly proud tradition. And there's some pressure you felt. And, and you've been self-deprecating about, your kind of free spin year, your first year at 3-8, because you inherited a bit of a mess, and you went right to 8-3, and then last year 7-4. They felt like similar seasons. You guys are almost right there. And you talked about the crock pot, how you wanted a crock pot, not a microwave. And it's been simmering, and we don't know if this is going to be the year that it's going to be ready. But what's it going to take? Because you got a lot of great key ingredients that we just talked about that are back. Like every team, you've got a few spots that are less experienced. But you're picked to finish fourth in the NSIC, and that's behind the three common giants for a while now. What are the things that will make the difference? Because you're going to have some close games between making the playoffs and not.
Yeah, and we talked a lot about it this whole fall camp about mentally what's going to take to break us mentally. And what I mean by that is you get a bad spot, do you lose your mind? If you miss a tackle, do you play the next play like it didn't happen, right? And we're at a point right now in our program where they know what to do, the general idea of how to line up and how we play and what our style of play is and all that. But can we mentally handle the ups and downs that happen in a football game? Like last year we played, and we talked a lot about the Augie game, obviously, and I don't hide that fact that we blew a lead. We were up 28-10 with 12 minutes to go or something like that. And when they started making plays and the momentum got on their side, it was almost like there's a million things that could have happened differently in that game. And all we had to do is change one or two, and we just couldn't quite do that. And so to play within the play, if that kind of makes sense, and we've really, if we can do that, we have a chance to have a really special year. Because I do think and again, being at Mankato and having some success when I was there, I've seen what it looks like to get to the Final Four, I've seen the national title team. And like I tell our kids all the time, when you get to the final 5 or 6 teams in the country, they are different. They're going to be faster. They're going to be bigger. They're going to be more athletic and all that kind of stuff. They're going to have some weapons that you don't see on a normal basis. Your ability to play as a team and not beat yourselves is what separates you. And even when I was at Mankato in 19 and we got beat by West Florida, we had a really good football team that played really well together and still lost to a really talented team. The kid still playing the CFL and played the NFL, the quarterback. And so that's the kind of talent you run into at that level. So your ability to kind of let the bad stuff go away, kind of like be a duck, right? Like water off a duck's back. You got to let that stuff go and focus on the next play. Because even in practice today, I said, we had a great start defensively, and offensively, you got your tails kind of kicked. Well, this is a new period. It doesn't matter what happened the first half of practice. It literally doesn't matter. It matters what you're going to do next. And I think our ability to kind of transition into that mindset of, okay, let's play the next play. And you see that people have the slogans on their helmets and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. I think SDSU's last play, I see that all the time. But it's so true. Most of the stuff us coaches say, we're not original. It's stuff that's been said before. The process, embrace the process, all that stuff. Nick Saban or last play or next play or however you want to, Culture. Yeah. I mean, that stuff is, we have a saying around here that culture is what the majority is willing to allow. What's the older guys going to allow? If the majority of your team lets guys walk off the field and not play hard and not run to the ball, that's probably how you're going to play on Saturday,
Yeah. It's the culture. It's the process. It's how connected you are. It's got to be one of one. Got to go 1-0 every day. What else can we break out of the vault? Intentional. I've noticed that's a big word in everybody's vernacular these days. Cordell, do you got one? I know you're. Well, yes. Those are the old.
Those are all great things, and it all has its own merit and value. But I think when you get down to it, it's true. It's why it's called a cliche, right? Because usually they're true.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, your first test, there's another cliche, but they are all tests, will be Black Hills State at home, Bob Young Field, next Thursday night. It's going to be fun to watch you guys rip out of the gate. So I appreciate your time, Glow. Best of luck.
Yeah, it's awesome to be on. I look forward to seeing you guys soon.
Jim Glogowski, head coach at USF. We also thank Coach OJ from Augie, and that is it for today's college football preview part 2, D2 show. So for Matt Zimmer, for radio producer Cordell Wright, I'm John. Happy hour, happy weekend, and cheers.
You need anything else, John?
No, I think I'm good, Greg. I think I'm going to tap out.
All right. Have a good night.